We're covering two articles in the town meeting warrant with Laurie Connors. Article 49 and Article 50 deal with the MBTA zoning bylaw. And we're going to let Laurie cover that in some detail here. Again, it is complex, and sometimes conversation needs to be had with a back and forth, and we're encouraging people to call the office and ask the questions that you may have after reading and reviewing other material ahead of town meeting. Call the planning department, talk to Laurie, and ask your questions ahead of town meeting. So we encourage you to do that. You can email as well. Call or email is fine. So I'm going to have Laurie start to explain Article 49, and then she'll move into Article 50. Laurie?
Thank you, Tim. So these two articles have been very much in the news over the last year or so. You may have heard people talking about MBTA requirements. They have, a number of articles have been written in the Boston Globe, as well as some appearances on the news relative to these articles. So the town of Northborough intends to comply with the law, and this is a new law that was adopted in December 2020 and signed into law by the Governor Baker in January of 2021. It's an amendment to Chapter 40A, which is called Section 3A, and it includes a number of provisions, and it's also referred to as the Economic Development Bill. So these changes affect housing production in Massachusetts in a number of different ways, but I am here to speak to you specifically about Section 3A. So that requires communities to adopt a zoning district which allows multifamily housing to be constructed by right. So right now, Northborough does allow multifamily housing in a number of zoning districts, but it is allowed by special permit, and the only district that allows multifamily by right is the downtown neighborhood district, and the cap is on 4 units per acre. So the new law affects 177 municipalities across Massachusetts. And there are different classifications for communities, and the classification that your community is in dictates how many units, the capacity for multifamily housing that your community is required to have. So Northborough is classified as an adjacent community, and what that means is that we do not have a commuter rail station in the town, nor do we have a bus stop. However, we are adjacent to 2 communities, so Westborough and Southborough, which do have commuter rail service. So that means that their requirements for multifamily capacity are greater than the town of Northborough. So the requirements that Northborough has to adhere to is that we have to create a district of reasonable size in which at least 15 units per acre are permitted as of right, although that development can be subject to site plan review. So the guidance classifies reasonable size as having an area of 50 acres of land. So it can be an overlay district, so it can be multiple locations in town, but no sub-district can be smaller than 5 acres of land, and one sub-district has to contain at least 25 acres of land. So the town of Northborough already does have dense multifamily housing in various locations, so I wanted to show you some examples so that you could kind of see what 15 units per acre looks like. So the residence at the Falls, it's located on Hudson Street. This is an adaptive reuse of a historic mill building. And there are 40 units on 1.85 acres of land. This is a building of 2 stories. And when you're looking at the density per acre, it amounts to 21 units per acre. Here's another example. This property is located on Blake Street. It's new construction. It was built a few years ago, not too long ago. It's 12 units on 0.23 acres of land. As you can see, the building is 3 stories high, and it amounts to a density of 52 units per acre. So obviously that is significantly more dense than the 15 units per acre that we're talking about under this bylaw. So this is more in line with what we're talking about. So this is Heritage Village. It is also off of Hudson Street. It has 33 one-bedroom units on 1.93 acres of land. The buildings are 1 to 2 stories, and it amounts to a density of 17 units per acre. And this is another multifamily development that many of you are very much aware of. This is Avalon of Northborough. It was built approximately 10 years ago. 382 multifamily units on 42 acres. There's a combination of townhouse style as well as garden style apartments. The building height varies from 3 to 4 stories, and it amounts to a density of 9 units per acre. So one of the things that people have been saying time and time again is expressing their concern about the impact that multifamily housing will have on school enrollment. And so that prompted me to do a little bit of a study and look at what the school enrollment figures have been over the last 20 years or so. So what I found is that in the 19-year period between the 2004-2005 school year and the 2023-2024 school year, student enrollment has actually decreased by 422 students, or 13%. So the most significant decline has occurred over the last 8 years. But it's important to note that this trend is not expected to continue. The New England School Development Council reported that enrollment is expected to recover over the next 10 years. So enrollment figures in 2033 to 2034 are expected to be nearly identical to what they were in 2013-2014. But the bottom line here is that there is capacity in the school system to handle additional housing. And it is also important to note that multifamily housing, which often consists of studio apartments, 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms, tend to have fewer school children than single-family homes.
I just read that as well in another published study. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so next I wanted to talk a little bit about how residential development looks today. And what we have seen over the last 10 years or so is a dip in the amount of residential development that's occurring in Northborough. So as you can see, in 2010, there were quite a few building permits issued, 69. And this was around the time that Avalon was constructed. So the building permit figures were up quite a bit between 2010 and 2014. And over the last several years, they really have bottomed out. And now we are experiencing approximately 12 residential building permits per year.
Those are single-family homes generally?
So it's a combination. So attached single-family permits tend to be like more of the townhouse configuration, so they may be duplexes. And then the multifamily tends to be more of the garden style configuration. So we have very few of those being built today. So it's mostly single-family homes.
Okay.
And it tends to be single-family homes that are built on existing roadways. So these are off of common driveways or, just kind of random single-family homes tucked in here or there. So
infill?
Very, very few subdivisions.
Okay. Do you want to move to Article 50? I'm sorry.
Okay, so I really wanted to bring the point home what this multifamily development overlay district is not. And it is not a production mandate. The state is not saying that we have to actually produce a single multifamily unit. So what they're saying is that we just have to provide the opportunity for multifamily housing to be built. This is also not providing relief from the existing zoning requirements similar to Chapter 40B. And it's not a requirement for towns to pay for infrastructure improvements to support new development. And it doesn't provide any relief from the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act or Title V of the Massachusetts Environmental Code. So there are certain consequences if the town does not comply with the MBTA law. One of these is, folks may have heard about the town of Milton, who defied the law, and now they are being sued by the Attorney General's office, so that is a risk. And also the town will not be eligible or will be penalized when applying for a number of state grants. There are a whole slew of them. Some of these grant programs are listed here. And I just wanted to make you aware that the town is interested in applying for a number of these grant programs to pay for an extension of the sewer line to Route 9, as well as downtown revitalization activities. So now we get to the bylaw itself. So Article 49 is a zoning map change, which would designate the locations where the multifamily development overlay district would exist. So there are two sub-districts. The first one is the Southwest Connector Subdistrict. It consists of 47.9 acres. And the most notable properties within this sub-district are Avalon of Northborough and the O'Connell Lodge. And there is a small parcel of undeveloped land. So the next sub-district is located within the downtown area. It's focused along Hudson Street. It consists of approximately 11.5 acres. The most notable uses within this area are the town offices. As many of you are aware, the town is examining the possibility of moving the town offices elsewhere. And should that be done, that means that the town hall can be converted into another use. And many think that multifamily housing is the natural use for that building going forward. There are some uses that are already currently developed. As I said, this law does not require us to to designate undeveloped land only. Developed land can be incorporated. So we did include Heritage Village. That is the picture that I showed you that has units at 17 units per acre. And then to the north of that property is another multifamily development. So then the E.L. Harvey and Sons, this is a dumpster storage property that we thought would be fantastic for mixed use versus dumpster storage. And to the north of that is a mill building owned by Maytech Instruments that could be adaptively reused for multifamily housing. This is the bylaw itself, and the bylaw sets the standards for development. It specifies that townhouses would be allowed at the density of 8 units per acre, and multifamily housing and mixed-use developments would be allowed at the density of 15 units per acre. It sets the minimum lot size, frontage, height, and setback requirements, which are identical to, for the most part, with the underlying zoning. There are some modifications for height that would enable the density of the 15 units per acre. It sets some additional design standards. And the reason for that is the planning board wants to ensure that any development that goes under this bylaw is the best development that the town can possibly get. So we want to make sure that it minimizes impacts on the neighboring uses, and it provides amenities that can be enjoyed by both the public and the residents. And lastly, it says that 15% of all dwelling units within the development that has at least 10 dwelling units within it must be permanently restricted for households qualifying as low income. So what that means is that 85% of the units will be market rate. So in summary, the aggregate district size is 59.52 acres. 9 parcels are included within the land area. This is a fantastic opportunity for the town of Northborough to join in the effort to address the regional and statewide housing crisis. And it advances a number of goals and objectives that were articulated in the 2020 Master Plan and the 2024 Downtown Revitalization Plan report.
Can I just have some follow-up to this? I mean, there was a process that the planning board went through based on the law. They went through a process of identifying parcels with your help and guidance. But all those things were public notice and public meetings that they went through and had discussions about. Is that correct?
They did. So we have actually been in discussion about the warrant articles since August of 2023. And we have been in public hearing for the last 2 months. So I believe our public hearing opened in February and it's still open today. So we have actually made modifications to our zoning package based on the feedback we've received.
And if approved, this will go to someone at the state for approval or not?
Yes, so it's a 2-step approval process. So all of the zoning related articles go to the Attorney General's office for approval. So that's standard, that happens every single year. But the MBTA articles are going to go to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities so that they can review and determine whether our bylaws are in conformance with the new law.
Okay. So there's a second step of this after town meeting for approval.
Yeah, there
But
is.
based on what we have, we do think it meets the criteria.
Yes, I've been very careful. I've been working with planning consultants, and there have been a number of workshops that have been offered by the state that I have attended and have been modifying the bylaw as new information has come out from those resources. So I'm feeling comfortable that our articles will be deemed compliant.
All right. And again, this is complex, so if people can call, please call or send an email to ask particular questions, and we'll try to get you accurate information so you can make the best decision possible. So thank you for that update.